to me how people move sometimes in spaces. Caroline Levitt, who is Donald Trump's press secretary, was just recently at a Turning Point USA event that was hosted by Erika Kirk at George Washington.
All right, guys, you really need to see this. I'm going to play a part of this clip because it reveals a lot more than people realize. First thing, access. This right here shows just how close Turning Point USA is to the current presidential administration. And I'm not talking about casual connections. This is real proximity. Sure, Erika Kirk has connections to Donald Trump, and Charlie Kirk did too. But think about this for a second. There are people in this country who can't even get access to their own elected officials, their own representatives. Yet this organization, they get direct entry. No barriers, no waiting, and that tells you something important. They're not going to criticize the administration. Now, let's get into what Caroline Levitt said. There's a moment on stage, light, casual, almost playful. They're joking about pregnancy, talking about cravings, sharing stories. It feels normal, relatable. But here's what stands out. They're talking about motherhood, emotions, personal experiences. Yet when it comes to serious global issues, like children being killed in conflict, that same level of empathy is nowhere to be found. That contrast, that's the real story. Then Caroline starts talking about her journey. She ran for Congress in 2022 in New Hampshire. Before that, she was an intern in Trump's White House. Then she became a communications director on Capitol Hill, and eventually, she worked her way into a major role at the White House on the surface. It sounds like a success story, but here's the key point. That kind of rise doesn't happen randomly. You don't move up that fast unless you're already aligned with the system, with its messaging, its priorities, and its power structure. She even explains how Turning Point USA supported her when others didn't. They connected her with donors. They helped build her campaign. They gave her access to the right network. And eventually, that path led her straight to the White House podium. Now here's what really matters. When she stands there as press secretary, she's not just speaking freely, she's delivering a message that's already been decided. And no matter what's actually happening behind the scenes, the narrative stays controlled, a T1 point. She talks about working with the press and calls them fake news. And notice, even during a casual interview, she's still pushing that same line that's not accidental. But let's be real for a second. The issue isn't just mainstream media. Because conservative media has its own bias. Corporate media across the board pushes selective narrative that's not about one side being honest and the other not, and it's all about who controls the message. And that's exactly why people are turned to independent media, because they feel like they're not getting the full story elsewhere. Then she says something interesting. She claims that Trump is transparent, that what you see publicly is exactly what happens behind the scenes. But the real question is it actually transparency or just a well-managed image? Because in spaces like this, everything starts to feel a little too coordinated. Let's be real for a second. She says, he's very real. He keeps it real. But we've seen over and over again, that's not always true. We catch contradictions all the time. Even just recently, it was on full display. So when she says, what you see is what you get, you have to question that, because in the same breath, she basically admits something important. When a story breaks, she goes to him and asks what to say, and he tells her exactly how to respond. Think about that. That means she's not independently informing the public. She's repeating. That's the role. And that's why the press secretary exists. Instead of the president standing there answering tough questions himself, someone else does it for him. But here's the key moment. She openly describes how he gives her the messaging as, what does that make her? Not an independent voice, but a spokesperson following instructions. And what's even more confusing is this. They present themselves as deeply religious, values-driven individuals. But then you look at the messaging and it doesn't always reflect that. There are moments where serious human tragedies are being discussed, and the response feels cold, detached, or redirected. That disconnect raises questions. Then she continues praising the job, saying it's easier because everything is clear, that there's no confusion, no spin, just direct communication. She even says previous people in her role struggled, but she doesn't because of how transparent everything is. But again, think about what that really means, that everything is coming from one source, and that source decides the narrative. And of course it feels easy. There's no room for pushback. She also mentions something else, the unpredictability. Every day in the White House is an adventure. And even jokes that her boss barely sleeps, maybe 4 hours a night, which honestly might explain a lot. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. That level of access and proximity to power, it comes with conditions. People in those positions are not going to openly criticize the administration because they risk losing that access. And for organizations like Turning Point USA, their entire influence is built on maintaining that connection. Same goes for individuals in those roles that you have. Future political ambitions. You're not going to go against a system that elevated you. Even when something is questionable, you stay in line. That's how the system protects itself. This is what people mean when they talk about gatekeeping. The narrative is controlled, the messaging is filtered, and stepping out of line can cost you everything. Now here's where things get even more interesting. There was a recent post that caught a lot of attention. Instead of addressing the loss of innocent lives in a conflict, the focus shifted entirely to praising military strength and discipline. Now, supporting troops is one thing, but completely ignoring civilian casualties, especially children, raises serious concerns about priorities and empathy. And that's where people start asking questions. If you claim to stand for compassion, values, and faith, shouldn't that apply to everyone, not just when it's convenient? This also ties into a broader narrative we keep hearing about shared values and moral positioning. But when those values seem selective, people start to notice the inconsistency that to the end of the day, this comes back to one thing: access versus accountability. The closer someone is to power, the less likely they're to challenge it. And that's something people need to stay aware of. If you found this breakdown interesting,